So it is 20 past 5 on Halloween, 31st of October 2020, and in about half an hour's time we're going to be taking this along with a machine down to a new food truck owner in Tauranga. So they're lucky enough to get the lovely green machine combo, and we'll see that in a little bit later on this morning. But before we do that, we are going to be giving the Mazzer a fresh set of Burrs, keep them up and running. So we're just going to be taking you through the process, how we change the Burrs, how long it takes, and what's involved. So we'll take you through the process real quick. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to remove the hopper. I'm going to pop that to one side. Now usually there's going to be a bunch of ground coffee still in the bottom of the grinder, so we're just going to give that a quick clean out before we get started. Okay, from here we're going to take the electronics off. We're just going to let that hang for a little bit. From here we're going to loosen the adjustment collar. Now I like to count off roughly how many turns there are. It just makes it a little bit easier for when we're getting it all back together. So we have our handle here. So we're going to be turning clockwise and then anti-clockwise to tighten it again. So from here we're going to be counting it off. Okay, half. It's one turn, 1.5, 2 turns, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, we're just about there, 5, 5.25. Okay, so adjustment collar comes off, pop that to one side. Okay, we're going to lift the upper carrier off. Okay, these are looking and feeling pretty blunt. A little bit of built up coffee there, that's fine. And we'll just squeeze this over so we can see what's going on. Lay that down there. Okay, so built up coffee there, that's fine. Okay, pretty standard. Probably haven't cleaned this in a wee while. Clumped up coffee, it's going to be tasting stale. So first things first, we're just going to take that upper set of burrs off. Okay, flathead screwdriver. Pop those screws to one side. Cool. Alright, there we have it. As you'll see there, a lot of built up coffee. Okay, and those are pretty blunt. Okay, again, a little bit of coffee there. We're going to clean that up in just a minute, but we'll get the lower burrs off first. Okay, so I'm going to get the adjustment springs out. Okay, there's 4 of them there. Okay, and so from here what I like to do is I like to use a group head brush, plastic, reasonably firm, but it's not going to damage anything. And from here we're simply going to wedge this in so we can get some leverage on that, and I'll show you how that works in just a moment. Okay, so basically what's going to happen is as soon as you start to try to loosen the screws, okay, the bottom burrs are going to turn and you're going to drop your screwdriver. Okay, so as soon as you start to try to turn the screws, the bottom burrs are going to turn. So basically what we're doing is we are wedging the group head brush into one of the carrier screw holes, and we're just going to use that to help leverage that. From here we can turn it without the bottom burrs turning. Okay, again, and with the group brush. Screws 1, 2, and 3rd screw coming out now. Okay, from here, just going to use a flathead screwdriver, and we're just going to get that bottom set of burrs out. Okay. Okay, so we're just loosening it from the lower carrier. Not too much force. We're just kind of prying it up around. Okay, so here we go, lower blades, lower burrs, again, big build-up of coffee. Yeah, okay, so those are blunt as can be. Pop those to one side. And of course there's quite the build-up of caked up coffee in there. Okay, all that's going to be impacting your next shot, so we're going to clean that out real good. Again, vacuum cleaner is the best, quickest and easiest way. Nice and clean, but we're going to give that a quick wipe down. So the most important thing here is we want to make sure that the threads are as clean as possible. So that's going to be our biggest issue as we mount the new assembly with the new burrs. First of all, just give this a quick wipe down. inside and out. Okay, and there we have it. Okay, nice and clean, ready to go back in. Okay. Okay, so as you'll see there, the threads are very fine. Super important we don't damage these. I like to use a Chuck's cloth and usually something like a pick. Okay, something like that. And I like to just run that through and just make sure that any ground coffee in there is cleared out. Okay, this can take a little while depending on just how much build-up there is. So any ground coffee is going to stop the carrier from running smoothly. Okay, and alternating, we're just moving the cloth around so we're not dragging more ground coffee into there. Usually I like to kind of get a little bit of padding on there, and between the padding and the point of the pick, it usually works out pretty good. And usually takes a couple of minutes just to get this cleaned up. Alright, and now for the fun stuff. So, our brand new packet of official Mazzer Burrs. Okay, and these are going straight in. Just like a little kid on Christmas. Okay, look at those, beautiful and sharp. Okay, official Mazzer stamp. If you pull your Burrs out and you don't see Mazzer on there, you've been sold a grinder with bad or fake Burrs. Never going to last as long. Okay, and they just fit straight in there. So again, we just clean those out. Okay, when I'm not dropping stuff. start them just a couple of threads each before we tighten them down properly. And we want these nice and tight. Okay. Last thing we want is any play or any movement in the burrs. So again, I'll tighten them all until they're snug, and then I'll give them a proper tighten. Just to make sure everything comes down nice and flush. Okay. Tighten. Okay, nice and tight. So these are usually the easy ones. So when we get them in the lower carrier that we need to employ the leverage with the group head brush again. Okay, so there they are. Oh, beautiful and sharp. New one's going to be super happy with those. Fantastic. A little frisbee for you. Okay, so new burrs going in. So same thing, we're just going to line up the screw holes. Okay, I just like to get the old coffee out from there. Old coffee never made anything taste any better. Nice and clean. Okay. So again, I like to just run them for a couple of turns just to get them seated. I'll tighten them all down and then I'll torque them. Okay, and again, group head brush into the hole. Okay, and from there, just gives us enough leverage that we can torque this down nice. Okay, there we go. One done. Two done. And three. Okay. Excellent. That is looking good. Okay, so here is going to be the most helpful tip of anyone, especially the first time that they're setting a new set of burrs into a grinder. People like to assemble everything and then wonder why it takes 20 minutes for them to seat the adjustment collar. Okay, now here's my little trick. Okay, so our upper carrier goes on. You'll notice we haven't put our screws in yet, okay? And the reason for that, I'll show you in just a moment. So the screws are going to push up against the adjustment collar, against the upper carrier, and it's going to make us seating the adjustment collar that much more difficult, okay? So this is the tricky bit of the job. For the first or second time you do it, as you do it more and more, you kind of get a bit of a knack to it. So we don't put the screws, the springs in just yet. So upper carrier, adjustment collar. Now you'll remember that our handle was pointed roughly at 10 o'clock. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pop it on here, and you'll hear that click into place. Okay. There, that's it clicking into place. From here, we could wind it in and it's already seated, okay? I try to pull that up, that's already in its thread, okay? Which is what we want. So right there is where we want it. Okay, right there. Okay, so I know that I need to be in that direction. So we're going to take this off, we'll put the screws in, sorry, the springs, sorry, it is 5:30 in the morning, and in 10 minutes I need to be out the door getting this down to its new owner. So our springs are going to go back in, okay, springs in, 1, 2, 3, and last but not least, and 4. From here, our upper carrier, okay, now 2 things, we've got our adjustment handle pointed exactly where we want it, which means our job here is going to be a lot easier. We're not moving around trying to find its location before it drops down into that first set of threads, okay? We don't need to worry about cross setting, smashing the top of the threads, anything like that. So from here, I'm just going to put that on. Also what I like to do is sometimes I'll have a cup or something to push down, because what's going to happen is the springs are pushing up. We want to get the adjustment collar down, so sometimes we'll need to just push that upper carrier down just to allow it to seat. So let's just see how we get on. Cool, we heard it click, it's already in there. From here, the reason why we counted it off is so we can get it nice and close to our adjustment point before we start dialing it in. So we started off at our 10 o'clock, so 12, 6, 3, 9, so we started at 10. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're about 5.5. Oh no, we were bang on 5, weren't we? Yes. Okay. So from here, I like to leave it a little bit loose. It's better for the grinder that we dial it in, rather than having the burrs touch, slamming against each other and having to dial it back out. So from here, just going to push it out a 1/4 turn. Okay, the electric's back on. We're pretty much good to go. We're going to plug it in. We're going to pop our hopper on. And of course, don't expect to be able to drive this without the hopper. It does come with a safety device, which means that this little tab here is going to slot into the back of the grinder. And if that tab doesn't slot in, it won't, it acts as a kill switch. So we could turn this on and off and we won't have any action there. And I'll show you that in just a moment. Okay, plugged in, turned on. Now, plug turned on, off, nothing. Okay, as soon as we put that on, you'll see we've got action there. Okay, and we're pretty much ready to go. So now comes time for the dialing in part. So we've got some old beans here. Generally we'd want, you know, at least half a kilo or a kilo through just to season the burrs, just kind of taste it a little bit better. So we've got some old beans there that we'll just put through as we start to dial it in. Okay. Now, as you can or can't see, this is pretty coarse. not quite plunger coarse, but also there's no way we'd be putting that through a espresso machine without having a great big gusher. Okay, so that's perfectly fine. We're going to grind and adjust until we get things exactly where we want them to be. Okay, so still pretty coarse. Okay, still pretty coarse. Okay, that's looking much better. In fact, that's pretty close, I'd say. So the coffee, like I said, is older than I'd use it. So this is probably a month old. Generally speaking, I like to have my coffee between a week and a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks on the outside. Anything longer than 3 weeks straight from the roaster, and generally I wouldn't run it. I know people who run theirs 5 or 6 weeks. Personally, when I get my coffee roasted fresh every day, again that 1 to 2.5 weeks really is that sweet spot. For the blend, courtesy of the lovely people at DKD Espresso, and also the flavour of espresso that I like to serve to my customers and drink myself. Okay, so from here what we're going to do is we're just going to run a quick shot, see how it looks, and I'd say we're just about ready to go. I have about 5 minutes until I need to get this loaded up in the car, everything else, and I'll drive down to Tauranga for its new home. So let's just pull a shot and see how we look. Okay, so the other thing we've noticed is that between those Burrs and these Burrs, nothing has changed on the grinder, and yet we are getting almost 100% yield increase between the old and the new. So I pulled a shot with this morning, and no, I didn't weigh it, but I also didn't need to. So what has happened is the yield in here was under the lip of the portafilter, and now, as you can see, the yield is significantly more. In fact, I might just go quickly grab my scale just so we can see exactly what we're dealing with, because this is really interesting. The Burrs were dull, but also the throughput just wasn't nearly as much. So I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see this from here, but we've got our cup, scale zeroed out, and let's just see what we come out with. Wow, okay, so we did lose a little. I'm thinking we're probably somewhere in the 35 grams maybe a little bit more. Okay, so we're at 28.6 grams of yield. We did run this in an event with the old Burrs last weekend, the guys out at F45 Massey. We were pulling shots all day long. I think we did around 100 drinks. And I had that dialed in at about between 16 and 17 grams for the grind size. So new set of Burrs. Timing on the electronic Mazzer hasn't changed, but what we have seen is an increase of probably 40% in the yield just by changing the burrs. Okay, so this is something I hadn't looked at previously, so this is all new to me, but really interesting. So that's a huge amount for what we're doing. So we're just going to strike that off, see what sort of shot we get, and we'll go from there. Okay, so it's still running pretty quick. We can just get that a little bit finer. So probably about there. Wow. Okay, the other thing is the coffee was old. Just grab a fresh bag. Okay, it certainly wouldn't be uncommon for us to need to go through this process 5, 6, 7, 8 times just to get things exactly where we need them to be. It's all part of the process. Still quite coarse. Okay. But we'll see what sort of shot we get. Still running a little bit fast. Okay, it's feeling a little bit better now. Okay, so we've got things dialed in roughly. Again, we're within a couple of notches of where we want it to be. We'll need to wrap this up because I should have been on the road 10 minutes ago. But that concludes how to do a burr change on a Mazzer Major, or basically any Mazzer in this range. It'll all be the same: Mini, Super Jolly, Major, Royal, until you get to stuff like the Colds. They have slightly different burr setup, but basically the same principles. So we'll pick it up a little bit later on in a couple of hours. We'll be looking at a training video, and we'll be talking about getting a new starter up and running with the very first coffee setup. So hey, thanks a lot for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us at headshotcoffee.com, headshot_coffee on Instagram, and we'll see you again real soon. Okay, see ya.